Happy Memorial to everybody. My name is Scott Morganroth of Motor City Madmouth. We are live from Jackie Robinson Ballpark, and I am pleased to be joined by former Detroit Tiger pitcher Willie Blair. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, here's the thing. This guy is a journeyman pitcher. He's been on several teams. He's been with the Tigers on 2 occasions. So let's talk a little bit about your playing career, which seemed like to me you had some short stints. So what mover did you use?
Well, it was weird to be on so many different teams and that kind of thing, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed meeting new friends at every stop, and it was a great experience for me and my family to experience all the different players, all the different cities, and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed it.
Well, I got to tell you a funny story. Earlier in the week, I had a guy by the name of John Bonamago, the former Detroit Lions assistant coach, and like you, he's been traveled. When I presented this movers question to him, he just joked around. We laughed about it. He said, I don't know, I lost count how many I had, but boy, I enjoyed every stop. Kind of what you were talking about as well.
Sure.
So.
I mean, you meet new people, you meet new teammates, you experience different things in different cities, and so that's a great life experience.
All right, so let's talk about your career highlights. I'm sure you probably have a few that you're really happy about.
Well, I mean, my first day in the big leagues, I didn't pitch that day, but my first day in the big leagues was opening day of 1990, and my childhood idol, Nolan Ryan, was pitching against us. So that was just being in the big leagues was a huge thing, but then also being able to see him pitch was awesome. I think I was 24 years old at the time, and if I'm not mistaken, that was his 24th year in the big league. So that was pretty neat. I did a couple other things. I was part of 2 expansion teams. I was drafted by the Rockies in the expansion draft, and then I was signed as a free agent by the Diamondbacks during their inaugural year. I had my best year overall with Detroit. I got hit in the face with a line drive in May and missed 2 months, and I ended up coming back and got hot, and we scored a lot of runs, and we played great defense, and I started pitching pretty well, and I ended up winning 16 games that year. Right. So that was a lot of fun. Made the playoffs with the Padres one year. Is another really good moment to cherish. So that's I mean, there's a lot more, but that's probably the top ones.
To show you I know my baseball, I know your manager with the Rockies was Don Baylor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Buck Showalter piloted the Diamondbacks,
yes.
Built that championship team, and obviously Bob Brenly got the credit for finishing the job, so to speak. So yeah, let's talk about that 1997 season where you were able to compile a 16-inning record. I know your ERA was above 4, but then again, American designated hitter, what do you expect? So what do you recall the most about it, other than the fact that you sustained that unfortunate injury?
Well, to be honest with you, that was the first time anybody had ever given me an opportunity to start over a full season. So I was very thankful for that. Early on, the first month of the season, I was pitching okay, but I wasn't really consistent. After I got hit in the face with a line drive, I made a mechanical adjustment to try to get myself in a better position to protect myself on balls that were hit back at me. And what I found out was it helped me be a little bit more consistent with, my delivery. My release point was a little more consistent, which in turn made my pitches go where I wanted them to, a little bit more consistent, which allowed for more success. So, like I said, I started throwing the ball really well, but we always seemed to score runs on, when I pitched, and our defense that year was really, really good too. So, the other part of it is I made some really good lifelong friends on that team. So, I really enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, name some of those friends. Wasn't Phil Garner the manager at the time?
He was the manager, and my last time there, but Buddy Bell was there. In
Oh, that's
97.
right, Buddy Bell. Okay.
He was a great man. I had a lot of respect for him. In fact, I always thought he was one of the best managers I played for. But Doug Broquel, Todd Jones, Brian Hunter,
Yeah.
Guys like that. I mean, Brian Moeller, Justin Thompson. I stay in touch with all those guys a little bit. It's been a while since I've talked to most of them, but we usually talk once or twice a year and that kind of thing. So a lot of Tony Clark, Damian Easley. Those guys they were all really good friends. Dean Palmer was there. I think he came a little bit later. Travis Fryman was one of my all-time favorite teammates. Yeah.
I remember Dean Palmer from my days when he was with the Gastonia Rangers. I was in '87. Can you imagine this? I was the public relations director for a team that had Sammy Sosa, Juan Gonzalez. We still lost.
Wow.
I was to show you that whether you win is one thing, developing prospects is another.
Yeah,
But
sure.
now, when you talked about Nolan Ryan, did you ever become friends or get to know him after that day?
I've never met him. Obviously, I'd love to. I'd love to this day, but always looked up to him. I loved the way he pitched. It was exciting. Just the way he went about his business. It's all business out there on the mound, and just always respected the way he carried himself, and obviously he was just better than everybody. So.
Now, I had an opportunity to see you on I only went to one opening day in my lifetime at Tiger Stadium. It was the day you pitched, the final day at Tiger Stadium. So, to me, between opening day and then the final game, of course, Robert Fick was on that team. What was it like to pitch the final game, opening day at Tiger Stadium at a historic, iconic moment?
At the time, I probably didn't think as much about it. I mean, it just happened to fall on the day I was pitching, and don't get me wrong, I still felt like, this is pretty special. I get to start opening day at home. But then as the years go by, you start realizing that was pretty special, to pitch on the last opening day of that stadium. And I look back on it, and it was pretty cool. And fortunately, we had pretty good weather. It was cold, but it was nice. I was able to go out and have a pretty good game, and I look back on it and think, hey man, that was pretty special.
You've probably been around, I know you've been around a lot of teams, but do you realize how special opening day is in Detroit? You have Arnie Harwell and all the Tiger greats with one of the original franchises.
I do now. At the time, I probably took that a little bit for granted, just not really understanding or maybe not letting myself get caught up into that. That was the one thing I kind of prided myself in, is I tried not to get caught up in all the stuff going on around me, and I tried to wait until I got out there and just focus on my job.
Well, obviously you told me you enjoyed your time in Detroit, but I know Alan Trammell was there at the time on the coaching staff. Did you ever get to know Alan Trammell and other guys that you haven't mentioned that you'd like to bring up now?
Sure did. Alan Trammell, got to know him by working with the Tigers for 6 years as a coach. Got to know him there. Got to know him a little bit from when I played there as well. He was always around. But then when I was coaching in San Diego, I saw him when he was with the Diamondbacks. So I saw him a lot over the years. Lance Parrish, one of my all-time favorite people. I was fortunate enough to be able to coach with him for a couple of years. There's really a ton. Kirk Gibson, got to know him a little bit. Another great human being. So there's a lot of good people over there.
Okay, let's talk about your coaching career. Obviously, leaving the game, now you have a different opportunity to teach younger guys to play ball. How much have you enjoyed that part of your life?
Well, it's, I've really loved it. I look back on it. To be able to have just a little bit of an impact on a young person's life and help them get going in the right direction, and teach them a little bit about life, but also about the game of baseball and all, try to relay all the things that I've learned over the years. It's pretty special. And I've developed a lot of great relationships throughout the years, and have some players that I, coached several years ago that I still stay in touch with, and that's pretty special. To me, that's what this game's about, is building relationships.
Well, I can tell you that too, is you're right, because even though I'm a writer, a member of the media, I've developed players all the way back to the Florida State League with Kevin Rands and all the different people. And to me, baseball's one big universe where anybody can get together, and all of a sudden it's like you never left in the first place, and that's what I loved about the sport.
Yeah.
So let's talk the rule changes regarding pitchers. I know I've talked to Lenny about Harris about them earlier, but you have the 3-batter minimum, the pitch clock, mound visits limits, and of course now you have the quick and pace. Which do you feel that the quick and pace is more taxing on pitchers?
I think it can be. Really the only thing that I don't like about it is, I was always big on, when you get into a big spot in the game, to step off and refocus, get your breath, refocus, and then go about your business. And I just don't think we have enough time to do that right now. We have guys that cover first after, they bust their butt over to cover first on a play over there, and then they get back on the mound. They're still breathing hard, and they have to, they have 15 seconds to get back up on the mound and get the pitch thrown. So there's parts of it that I really like, and then there's a few parts that I wish there was a little more discretion. The umpires may have said, okay, we'll give them a little break right here, or whatever. Give them, an extra 10 seconds or something like that. So, like I said, these rules are new. Like I said, some of them are good, and have really haven't affected the game as much, other than just keep the pace going. But I do think there's a few things, like I just said, like I just spoke about, that could be tweaked a little bit, and they might be in the future.
But when you talk about the major leagues versus the minor leagues, okay, obviously the minor leagues are more developmental, so that's where I can appreciate where you want to slack off. But then with the major league players, don't you think it's a different animal when it comes to quickening the pace? Because one of the ones that doesn't bother me is the pitch 3-batter minimum, because back in the day when we were growing up, if you pitched 2 or 3 innings, that was the norm. Now 3 batters seem a little bit, I don't have a problem with that one as much as I do some of the other ones.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't mind that one that much. I do think that at the big league level, the pitch clock, and the reason it, and I'm not speaking for anybody in particular, just from the outside looking in, I think that there's so much, so much put on winning, at the big league level, that these guys, the hitters, want to have their mind, focused on, this pitcher. These guys throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour. They want to be ready, when they get in there, and they don't want to feel rushed. And the same thing with pitchers. They know that we're up by one run. If I make a mistake right here, this could be a tie game. So they want to have time to regroup and have that little mental cue to get back and get refocused.
All right, well, let's talk about the ghost run. I never thought about it until you just brought that up. I've never, me personally, liked it myself. I feel from a pitcher standpoint, you can get a loss that you're not really supposed to get. And the fact of the matter is, even though it's an unearned run, but what are your thoughts about the ghost run?
Again, when it first came out, I wasn't a big fan. In fact, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was, I thought it was a bad rule. However, as I've coached a few years, and knowing all the restrictions of the young pitchers, and to try to get them developed and try to prevent injuries and that kind of thing, I do think it shortens those games that go 15, 16, 17 innings, and so you're saving pitchers. So I do think on that, in that regard, that it's good. I am a little bit of a traditionalist and still love the old game, as far as that goes. Part of the beauty of the game was the fact that it could go 16, 17 innings,
right.
and whoever had the best bullpen or whoever, had the most endurance or came up with the biggest hits or the biggest plays or the biggest pitches, they would win. But at the same time, a lot of times if you go 15, 16, 17 innings, that messes up your pitching for a week or longer. And so I do think in the minor leagues that it's a good rule, and it helps save arms and doesn't affect the pitching staff as long as a longer game would. So you have time if you go out and you pitch 10 or 12 innings, then that's a lot better than 16 or 17. You just save yourself 6 or 7 innings, 5 or 6 innings. So in that regard, I think that was good. At the big league level, I'm not sure I would like that if I was a player. But at the same time, I mean, those innings are stressful.
Right.
Because you got a runner at second, so you're trying everything you can to keep those guys from scoring, and a lot of times those innings are much more stressful than they would be, just playing a regular inning like we used to in the extra inning. So, but that's my thoughts. I some good and some bad on that rule.
So, what are your thoughts about the universal designated hitter?
Again, I think there's good and bad with that rule as well. In the National League, there was a whole lot more strategy to the game, as far as double switches, which double switches are hard. You have to pick the right time to do it, who to do it with, and that kind of thing. So those are probably, double switches were probably the toughest decision-making process a manager had to make back then. So on the other hand, pitchers aren't good hitters. And I mean, let's face it, they're not good hitters. Fans aren't getting anything from watching a pitcher go up there and strike out 70 or 80% of the time. Don't get me wrong. There are some pitchers that can run into one once in a while, and that's pretty exciting. Bumgarner used to hit, a couple home runs a year, and several others were decent hitters. So those are fun. But overall, I don't think the fans really want to. I think they would rather see a hitter go up there that has a much better chance of doing something good than a pitcher does. But again, you had the bunts, you had the double switches, all that kind of stuff. The strategy was much better the old way. The actual hitting is probably much more entertaining now.
Yeah, unless you're hitting in Colorado, but then you hit them out. I heard that's a different animal. Just a few more questions to go. So why are there a lot more Tommy John surgeries? That to me is the mind.
I think if I knew that answer, I would be a billionaire. So, I have thoughts on it. I think that probably kids playing year-round when they're younger has a lot to do with it. They are one-sport athletes way more often nowadays than they used to be. So they've got, players are throwing year-round, competitively year-round with all the winter ball tournaments and that kind of thing. So I think that has something to do with it. I also think that sports medicine and the technology of today is much more advanced, and they pick up a lot more minor tears nowadays, and they know that they can fix it and that kind of thing. So I think back a long time ago, and I know that I did this, and I found this out at the end of my career when I had a MRI on my elbow, that I had a tear on my UCL.
Oh, did you?
And I did it when I was in AAA. I know when I did it, but I rehabbed, ended up coming back, and never really had a problem with it again until right towards the end of my career. And when I had the MRI, they're like, "Did you know that your UCL was torn before?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't know, but now I know when it happened. You know, I know I missed 2 months one time in AAA because of that." So I think the technology is a big part of it, but I also think that just the overuse. You know, I'm a big proponent of kids playing multiple sports.
Right.
You know, you're staying active all the time, but you're also using different muscles, different ligaments, in different ways. And so, although you're staying active, you're also giving your body a little bit of a rest in some ways. So, you know, that's the biggest one for me.
Okay. You were out of baseball for a while. So what were you doing?
Well, after the 2021 season, the Tigers let me and if I'm not mistaken, 25 plus people go at the same time after the 2021 season, which is another story. I'm not real happy about that, but you know, I went home that year and tried to find baseball jobs, and at the same time I tried to find a job closer to home, and I was like, you know, whichever one comes first, then you know that's what I'm doing. So I got a job with Coca-Cola, Consolidated, back in Kentucky. Actually, my job originated out of Charleston, West Virginia, but my territory was part of West Virginia, part of Kentucky. But I was in sales with them for about 15 months, and I enjoyed it. Met a lot of great people. You know, learned a lot about how teamwork not only works out here on the baseball field, but it works in the corporate world too. So, so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time, and I felt like I did a pretty good job. And you know, when this opportunity came, obviously I jumped at it because this is my passion. This is what I love doing, and you know, feel very fortunate to have gotten that opportunity.
Well, the amazing part about this whole opportunity was you never played for the Reds at all in a lot of your stops, but here you are landing with the Reds. So how did you land that job with the Reds?
Honestly, you know, a friend of mine who is the pitching coach at San Diego State University knows someone with the Reds, and it came up in conversation that they were looking for a minor league pitching coach, and my friend, who's the San Diego State pitching coach, told him, I said, you should call Willie. And so he called me and said, hey, you might be getting a call here from the Reds here pretty soon. And sure enough, within about 30 minutes, I got a text from Derek Johnson, the big league pitching coach and director of pitching. And he said, if you're interested, you know, let's jump on a call. So I said, sure, call me. It just started from there. We had a nice, you know, 45-minute conversation, and I started going through the process. I filled out the application, had a couple of interviews, and went through the process, and they offered me the job. So it was really just word of mouth, I believe. It was just kind of lucky. Somebody talked to a friend of mine that knew that I would love to get back in the game, and told him my name, and next thing you know, I was on the phone. So it worked out great.
How do you like your time here in Daytona so far? I mean, this is a great place, good ballpark. I know they're upgrading facilities, and one thing I do know about the Reds, because I worked with them back in the '80s as well. You know, that's how I developed the relationship with Lenny Harris. They're loyal, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised. Who knows? This is a good organization you're going to land and advance your career. But talk about Daytona, and then what your goals are, coaching-wise, hopefully move up through the ranks.
So I've enjoyed it really well and a lot here in Daytona. You know, it's obviously a little bit of a change. We've had several lightning delays here, so that's something I've had to get used to. But other than that, I mean, the people here have been great. They treated us really well. The team itself is very, very young but very talented. We've taken some lumps here and there, but we're starting to play better. Over the last 3 weeks, we've began to be much more competitive on the field. So I think we're making steps in the right direction. I think, like I said, we have several young players that are probably going to be in the Reds uniform here in the next few years. So it's a fun group.
Well, the Reds used to be an advanced Class A, so what's it like to work in lower Class A, knowing that the players are a lot younger and they're more developmental, knowing they're coming off the rookie leagues?
It's a lot of fun. It is. I mean, like I said earlier, you get to have a little bit of an impact on this person's career and their life. And, for most of these kids, this is their first full year of playing and at the pro level. So it's a grind. You go out here and you play every day. You have every Monday off, but you're playing 6 times a week. And it's a grind for them. They have to learn how to get through that physically and mentally. I feel like, I've experienced it and I can help them through it. And, all of our other coaches have gone through this, and we have a lot of experience on our coaching staff. So I think that's a big part of it. We get to kind of help them get started in their career and understand what it's like to be out here, and this is your job. We're gonna have fun, but this is your job, and this is how you go about your business over the rest of your career.
Man, you do have a lot of experience. You got to think about Dick Schofield, you got Lenny Harris, and yourself. So if that isn't enough experience in a professional clubhouse, I don't know what is. And lastly, we'll talk about the Reds organization in general. Do you feel that this is a good organization for you, that you can actually move up in the coaching ranks and hopefully reach your goal to return to the big leagues at some point?
Well, I don't know about moving up. I mean, I'm not worried about that at this point in my career.
Okay.
If that happens, that's great. What I can say is the organization so far has been awesome. They treat us very well. I think they value our opinions. They want us to coach. They want us to do the things to help these guys get better. And like I said, they've given us all the support we need. I can't say enough good things about the organization at this point. So it's been great. It's been a great experience, great people. Anytime I've needed something or needed help with something, they're right, Johnny on the spot helping me out, and so it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at you, okay, here's a guy that I met, folks, on LinkedIn. We were going to do this thing streaming. I said, you know what? He's going to Daytona, and I have a good relationship with the Tortugas, and I couldn't think of a better way than say, the heck with streaming. Willie and I get to do this in person, but that's the one thing I always remember. I looked at your bio, was impressive, but when I know that we were both in the stadium for opening day 1999 before Comerica Park, that was truly, truly special. And the last thing, we'll wrap it on. Are there any other moments in your career that you haven't mentioned to me so far that you want to get out there?
Not really. I think that I hit all the highlights. Like I said, I could sit here and talk about things all day.
Yeah.
But I think I hit most of the highlights there. Really the other one is just getting drafted for the first time.
Yeah.
I was from a small little town in eastern Kentucky. Really knew nothing about pro ball, and that was pretty special. My college career, I got to play for Steve Hamilton, longtime big leaguer. Played in the World Series with the Yankees, and also played in the NBA championship with the Minneapolis Lakers. So he was a great, great man. I learned a ton about it from him, about how to go about your business. I had a high school coach that played pro ball, and Mike Collins, and then who just passed away back in this winter, early spring. But I learned a lot from him. I had a American Legion coach that we played 5 games a week. So he ran it just like it was a pro team. And our practices here were very similar to what he did. His name was Don Harden, and like I said, all those people had a huge impact on me, and so I'd like to maybe name their names. So
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of great people, great support throughout my career, and so I'd like to thank all of them for that.
Well, you know what, folks? It's a great Memorial Day weekend. We are at Jackie Robinson Ballpark, Memorial Day weekend. Normally, Daytona Beach is known for the Daytona 500, the Rolex 24, as well as the summer race. But I tell you what, they don't know enough about the Tortugas. But I'm here at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. Pleased to be joined by Willie Blair, who, like I said, I have the utmost respect for. He's a baseball lifer, and this is really what it's all about. You can see a lot of these interviews here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, so please hit that red subscribe button and subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. I have a lot of things I'd like to do, not only with the live streams that you were fortunate you didn't have to do because we get to do it here, but as well as the videos that we do on site, because that's what it's all about. We try to give you the best non-sports and sports-related entertainment, so please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, www.southfloridatribune.com. So, Willie, I can't thank you very much for doing this weekend, and it's so glad to finally meet you and spend time talking baseball with you.
My pleasure.
Good luck. Thank you very much for your time. God
Thank
bless.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.